Boom! Welcome into Sports Bet Betting Insight. Today, weekend preview edition. Paulie and Teddy, big game breakdown. Are you ready? UCLA, Texas A&M, LSU, Wisconsin. How about USC and Alabama? Notre Dame and Texas. We're going to go rapid fire coming up with 5 big games to break down. As always, bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. We look to stay hot with the play of the day as well. College football in a second. But how about what happened last night in the NFL, Teddy? A huge run to the unders.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, there was 15 NFL games on the board last night, and not a single total closed higher than its opener. So basically, there wasn't a penny of over money. It was nothing but under money, just as we saw in the one game on Wednesday night. And guess what? When the dust settled, even after a late scoring barrage in what was that last game that had the late scoring barrage? The 49ers and Chargers. Even after that, unders still go 12-4 to the under. So not a good result for the house. All the wise guys were pounding unders, and most of those unders cashed.
How about the Eagles covering 3.5? They didn't score an offensive point.
No, there's going to be when we start talking about some of the bets and some of the beats in preseason week 4, there were some ugly ones last night. And look, all right, Phillies laying 3.5 in a week 4 preseason game. They don't score an offensive point, but they did have a 71-yard punt return touchdown. They did have a 90-yard pick six, and Bryce Petty got hurt for the Jets, so he didn't play the full half, which meant even more Christian Hackenberg, who right now looks like one of the worst second-round draft choices of all time. Hackenberg does not look like he's going to be a capable NFL quarterback, at least not at this stage of his rookie campaign. I don't think he's going to make the team.
How about a bad bet? The Patriots. The news came out about Brady starting. Didn't work out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, Brady played. He didn't just start. He played the whole first half. You know, the markets went nuts. They bet the Pats from +1.5 to -1.5. There were -2s out there. I mean, the markets were very excited about Tom Brady. And again, it wasn't Brady getting a cup of coffee. It was Brady playing a first half against backups. So what happened? Well, he led the Pats on one scoring drive. The 2-point conversion missed. Oh, and New England turned the ball over 3 times under Tom Brady. And then, of course, Logan Thomas comes in, a quarterback who we mock because Logan Thomas was horrific for 4 years at Virginia Tech. And he's been horrific in every previous preseason with Arizona. And he's bouncing around. He has the physical tools. He's never been a good quarterback at any level after high school. What did he do? Yeah, Logan Thomas led the spread-covering final drive for the Giants late in the fourth quarter. Logan Thomas outperforming Tom Brady. Yeah. That's week 4 of the preseason.
Yep, all good things must come to an end. Our first loser on the football season. We're 5-1 so far. We had the Rams. What the hell was that?
This one made me nuts. I mean, it made me nuts, dude. All right, so the Rams lead 7-0, 3 minutes before halftime. With the ball, all right? But Minnesota's punting. Oh, a muffed punt. The Rams muff a punt deep in their own territory. The D steps up. They hold the Vikings to a field goal. The Vikings kick off. First play, LA fumbles. Defense steps up again. It's still 7-6. You know, they hold them to a field goal. Next possession, and this is all in the last 2 minutes before half. All right, instead of running out the clock, Goff's throwing ugly passes. Interception, 1-play touchdown drive. Then the Vikes scored a kick return touchdown in the second half, and their last touchdown drive, 3 plays, 6 yards after another muffed punt. So, yes, their longest drive, they scored 27 points. They had 0 drives. They only had 12 first down. They had 2.9 yards per play. They scored 27. They win and cover. Their longest drive was the 1-play touchdown. I think it was 22 yards. All Minnesota's points came off of LA miscues.
Good call by you. This is the other play of the day earlier in the week. You said Louisville would cover the total by themselves, and they did. 24-4, first down edge at halftime. They roll Charlotte.
Yeah. How about this first half for Charlotte? They had 105 total yards of offense and 103 yards of penalties. yeah, the Cardinals cashed our over bet by themselves with room to spare. This one was 56-0 at halftime, and it was pretty ugly for Charlotte and Louisville. As you mentioned, got there by themselves.
How about Butch Jones? He had him ready to play, huh? Oh, my God. 13-3 App State in the second half. Tennessee needs a missed extra point, a missed 42-yard field goal. They had to recover their own fumble in the end zone in overtime for their touchdown, and they hang on in OT to beat App State. They survived. They had no business winning that game. Oh, App State let one get away.
But they won it, So if you have a Vols under 10, guess what? You didn't get anything, It worked out for you if you took App State plus the points. But Tennessee survive and advance. It's not about style points, especially in a conference like the SEC. It's about getting the W. That being said, here's my question for you, Paul, because this is one I watched pretty closely. What was your take? Tennessee bad or App State good? Because my take was App State good more than Tennessee bad.
A little bit of both. App State's not bad. Here's what drives me nuts, Teddy. And you saw it last year with Jacksonville State when they went to Auburn. It's not the players. They're loose. They got nothing to lose. It's the coaching staff that gets tight, and they go conservative between the play calling and the clock management and settling for a 42-yard field goal when the kids already missed an extra point. That was crazy what that coaching staff did to those kids.
Crazy, I tell you. Crazy. What about, you want to talk coaching staffs? Here's a scenario for Minnesota. Did you see the end of this game?
Yeah, run it down.
All right, Gophers are up 1. All right, they score a touchdown with a minute 30 left to go up 7. Do you kick the extra point to go up 8, or do you go for 2 and end the game if you're up 9? That's my question for you. I love the fact that the Gophers went for 2. They didn't make it, but I love it because you're sealing the game, especially week 1. All right, if you're up 8 and somebody scores a touchdown and your defense is gassed, they're not dogs to make the 2-point conversion. They're really not. At the end of the fourth quarter against a tired defense, no way, no how. If you go for 2, if you miss, it's no different. All right, they're going to kick the extra point, you're stuck in overtime. But if you make that 2-point conversion and you go up 9, you just won the game, period. I like the decision. I know a lot of other people didn't.
Yeah, well, maybe they got someone who's running the numbers. That was interesting. Good. Thanks for pointing that out. So Tennessee, Minnesota, bad bets. Here's bad for the books. Indiana. Remember, it was open 4, bet all the way up to 11.5. They were losing at the start of the fourth quarter. They covered. They outscored Florida International 22-0 in the fourth, Teddy.
Yeah, and the Hoosiers, a team that's not known for defensive scores or defensive acumen. Indiana, not just in the Wilson era, but well before it. I mean, this team has been offense only, defense optional. So how the Hoosiers win this game and cover this point spread? Not 1 pick six, 2 pick sixes for Indiana, including once in the fourth quarter. They were up 14 when it happened, so it wasn't the point spread difference maker, but it certainly slammed the door shut on Florida International. As you mentioned, not a good result for the house.
Nope, yeah, you're right about that. And then we didn't forget about baseball. One bad bet, a 70-cent move on the Mets. DeGrom roughed up again.
Yeah, that's the third straight start that DeGrom's been roughed up. And yet the Mets were bet from minus 190 to as high as minus 260 against another playoff contender? That was a head-scratcher for me. As I mentioned, third straight struggling start for DeGrom. The season-long stats don't matter one iota when your ERA has risen by nearly a run over the last 3 outings. And how about this? Repeat after me, Paulie. A team with Kelly Johnson batting in the number 3 spot cannot possibly be a minus 260 favorite. It just can't happen. The Mets, a little bit anemic on offense. They certainly were last night in a bad loss to Miami.
Amen, brother. Up next, big game breakdown. 5 games to go over the college football weekend. We'll start with Clemson and Auburn in the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Hey, SportsBit viewers, when you guys are all done over there kicking some ass and taking names, come on over and listen to Double J and Brenner.
Don't forget about us.
All right, back on SportsBit, Paulie and Teddy. Before we get to big game breakdown, one correction, 11-5 to the unders in the NFL. We were so excited about college football, we forgot about the Moose. Look, how about what happened in the Raider game, Teddy?
Well, let's see. What do we have? The score's 9-8 with 5 and change left.
Oh.
And, they finished with 44. So you had 4 touchdowns, including a kick return touchdown with a minute left that sent the game up and over the total. Yeah, a little bit of a moose there if you had the under. No, more than a little bit. That's a brutal beat if you had the under.
Yeah. Game number 1, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Clemson on the road to take on Auburn. Clemson 7.5, 63 the total. Clemson very, very young. Only 6 seniors on the 2 deep, and 10 underclassmen will start, Teddy.
Yeah, I don't worry about that. I mean, I really don't. Dabo became Dabo by showing players that they could play early. It's not about whether you're a senior. It's not about whether you have 4 years in the system. That's college football 10 years ago. The reason that the Clemson's been getting the type of recruiting classes they have is Dabo's like, he'll get on the field. I don't know if there's more of a player's coach out there than Dabo Sweeney right now, and that's, of course, why Clemson has recruited so well. But here's my question for you. Even with that youth, they're going up with an Auburn team that, they even have a quarterback right now. They've only lost 3 games in double figures in 3 seasons under Malzahn, but I'm not sold on Sean White at QB here. Are you?
No, I was shocked that he won the job, considering he's not a good fit because he's not a mobile quarterback to fit in Malzahn's offense. And, this is the SEC for you. Malzahn's on the hot seat. He has to have a good season or he's gone, and last year was a disaster. So I'm surprised that he won the job, and he's coaching for his gig this year, no doubt about it. That's a tough assignment to start at home, Teddy.
Yeah, so we got Tigers versus Tigers. And the venue, obviously, we talk about Auburn is not an easy place to play. Clemson, a team that's very, very comfortable in hostile environments. Auburn, coming off a miserable season, but they don't lose games by margin. Clemson, a team that's a threat to score 50 in any game that they play. And we talk about how young they are and all the youngsters. Most of that's on the defense side of the football. Remember, Clemson returned every yard and every point that they scored on offense from last year. So even with that youth problem, man, there are a bunch of talented youths on the Clemson side.
This is a great game. Game number 2, liveoddsportsbookreview.com. UCLA at Texas A&M. The Aggies are 354 the total. Rosen's a stud, but UCLA has a new offensive coordinator, which we'll talk about in a second, and they're rebuilding with the wide receivers. So the young guy has to learn and has to teach a new offense to these guys, Teddy.
Yeah, for the second straight year. Not only has to learn a new offense, he's got to do it for the second straight year, and he's got to teach it to a bunch of guys that may not be quite as acclimated to the system as he is thus far. And we like Josh Rosen, no question. We have, at least I have some issues about the UCLA defense. This defense collapsed down the stretch last year. That was certainly something had to do with some injuries, but they also looked a little bit soft. And you look at some of the stuff that's happened in the offseason with that Bruin defense, and I'm not convinced that they're going to be able to bring their A game in an environment where it's going to be hot, it's going to be humid, and you're going to have an opposing team that is going to be playing as fast as they can possibly play. For the Bruins, with some inexperience on the line and some inexperience in the secondary, to me, it looks like something of a problematic matchup. For UCLA to beat A&M, they're going to have to outscore A&M. This isn't going to be a game where they're going to be able to, I look for them to get stop after stop and keep the Aggies off the scoreboard.
Now this is interesting because we both think someone needs to win at least 9 games. He's on the hot seat. He's coaching for his job. And they're ticked off at him because of the on-the-field performance. And not to mention, quarterbacks are transferring out left and right. So his guy this year is the Oklahoma transfer, Trevor Knight, who hasn't been the same since Katy Perry said, "Call me" on national television. What happened to this guy?
Well, I'll tell you what. If you've been reading the reports out of A&M camp, and again, these are just reports. Haven't seen him play. Haven't seen him play in a game. But there's a lot of positive reports coming out of camp about Trevor Knight. And this is a guy who, as you mentioned, showed enormous potential, and then it all kind of went away from him. And now he's been biding his time, waiting for his chance. Trevor Knight's going to have his chance on a pretty big stage for Texas A&M. And again, based on all the reports coming out of camp, he's had a phenomenal camp, and the Aggies offense, at least on paper, looks pretty darn good.
How about this? So now, as we mentioned, Mazzone was the UCLA OC last year. Now he's the Texas A&M OC. I think this works both ways, where he knows the UCLA personnel, but UCLA knows his play calling tendencies.
Yeah, I would say the advantage goes to A&M there. When a guy was on one coaching staff and he transferred over to the other coaching staff, the advantage goes to the new coaching staff because he brings all the knowledge of how they game plan, how their systems work, what the other team's trying to do, what their disguises are like. I would say there's no advantage for UCLA to having their guy on the A&M sidelines here. It's definitely a prep edge for Kevin Sumlin and the Texas A&M Aggies. There's a prep edge in the next game we're going to talk about too.
Yep, yeah, here we go again. Yep, LSU and Wisconsin. from Lambeau Field. I believe it's the first college game there since 1983. LSU 11, 44.5 the total. The LSU defensive coordinator was the Wisconsin DC the last 3 years.
And in my mind, that's a bigger edge even than offensive coordinator. Because when you have an intimate knowledge of how the opposing team's defense plays, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, who your replacement was, his tendencies, that's a big edge. And LSU, I think, will enjoy that edge because, look, the Badgers, I mean, you read the quotes, the kids are super excited about playing at Lambeau. I mean, this venue is a much bigger deal for Wisconsin's kids than for the LSU kids who play at a bunch of really cool venues over the course of the season. The Badgers don't. And then you throw in and you say, how much did the Baton Rouge flooding affect LSU's preparation? I mean, it's been a long, hard summer for LSU. So all these factors, you say, oh, well, the Badgers are going to be up for it, and it means so much to them, and the Baton Rouge stuff has really hurt LSU in terms of preparation, and all of that is negated by Dave Aranda. He led the Wisconsin defense to number 1 in scoring and number 2 in total defense last year, and now he gets rewarded by being able to coach better players because, boy, when you start grading out these two teams, Paulie, there's no comparison between the LSU talent and the Wisconsin talent. This is not a Barry Alvarez Wisconsin anymore. The Badgers, to me, look way down from a talent perspective from where they've been, even as recently as 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, I agree with you there, but this is going to be painful to watch, too. If you're looking for solid quarterback play and guys who can complete a simple pass, you're watching the wrong game. It's been that way for a while, too, with this quarterback play. Both programs.
Certainly Wisconsin. They got Bart Houston. He's a fifth-year senior. And it's good that he's been around, and it's bad that if you're a fifth-year senior, and given the issues Wisconsin's had at quarterback in recent years, the fact that he wasn't able to win the job in any previous season is something of a concern. But while you have Bart Houston, who I don't trust, what about Corey Clement? It's all about Leonard Fournette. Oh, Fournette. No. Corey Clement could be a 1,500-yard guy himself if he stays healthy. The one thing the Badgers have been doing forever, and they continue to do, that offensive line looks pretty good on paper. And in theory, they should be able to open up some holes for Clement here.
Up next, USC, Alabama, and Notre Dame, Texas, plus a couple play of the days we'll recap on SportsBit, betting insight today. Hey guys, it's that time of year again, football season. And with that, here's a message from everyone's favorite prick.
Listen up, fags. This deal starts in 1 week. If you think you can handicap football and beat my ass, come and play for a chance to win 50,000 big ones. Visit beattheprick.com and get ready to get steamrolled.
Back on SportsBit, we continue with college football. USC and Alabama. Alabama 11.5, 53.5. Neutral site, it's from Jerry's World. And you can make a great case here for Alabama because Nick Saban has been dynamite on opening day. 9-0 straight up, 8-1 ATS and season openers since arriving in 2007. And Teddy, a lot of these are blowouts against big-name programs.
Yeah, it's interesting because you look at the teams that they've beaten. Let's see, they beat Clemson on a neutral by 24. They beat Michigan on a neutral by 27. Virginia Tech on a neutral by 25. Wisconsin on a neutral by 18 last year. It's a real good track record worthy of support. That being said, none of those teams, and when they beat Clemson wasn't as good as they are right now. Then when they beat Michigan, Michigan had Rich Rod and was a different story. None of those teams are necessarily as good as USC. And certainly from a talent perspective, I got issues with USC, a number of issues with USC, but from a talent perspective, none of those teams, Clemson, Michigan, Virginia Tech, Wisconsin, you can go on. There are a handful of others. While going 9-0 straight up, 8-1 against the spread, I don't think any of them come close to matching USC's athleticism.
Yes. Now, what do we do about Clay Helton here? He's got new coordinators, and as you mentioned, I don't know, can we trust him and can we trust the talent?
Well, look, USC, there was a period of time in the Pete Carroll era when they were the best program in the country, and every year USC would have not number 2, not number top 5. They had the number 1 recruiting class in the country, and it was fact. When USC went into decline following Carroll's departure, that's when Alabama started landing those type of classes every year, and it hasn't stopped. The epitome of an always reloaded program. And certainly, given Saban's track record, we trust him to have his team ready. You asked me about Clay Helton. I mean, look, USC's program is not what it was. Helton is a first-time head coach. I know he was an interim coach last year. I know he coached the bowl game a couple years ago. He has a pair of new coordinators. He's never done this before. And USC is not really reloading the way they once were. This defense is young and inexperienced. You know, they got one upperclassman on the defensive line, a guy who was a third stringer at Utah and then transferred over to USC. The entire defense is without a returning senior starter. And again, from a talent perspective, I said earlier in the show, it's not always about how many seniors you have. But when you're going up against a team like Alabama, sometimes it is about how much senior leadership you have. I think they're going to have a tough time stopping the Bama running game, and their inexperience at quarterback won't help matters when they fall behind.
And you have to give Saban and Kiffin a lot of credit. I called him the Ashton Kutcher of college football. Kiffin has a horrible resume. He keeps getting great jobs. But they continue to break in new quarterbacks year after year, and they still continue to win. So we're used to smash mouth football as well with Alabama. How about these wide receivers that they have?
Oh, yeah. You got Robert Foster. You got Ardarius Stewart. And, of course, the picture here of Calvin Ridley. That's a nice 1, 2, 3. I don't know if there's a team in the country that has 3 better wide receivers than Alabama does. If the quarterback play works out for Bama here, boy, these downfield targets are likely to give USC trouble and give other teams trouble as the season progresses, because this is a loaded receiving core for Alabama, which, given their, we've seen Bama send first rounders in the NFL draft at wide receiver, as well as so many other positions. But I'm always surprised when the top-notch talent goes to Alabama to play receiver. You just get so many more opportunities to catch the ball in other venues.
Yep. Max Brown, ranked. He's the quarterback for USC, ranked ahead of Goff as number 1 in the nation coming out of high school in 2013. So USC thinks they have the real deal at quarterback there in this one. Last game.
Oh yeah, I mean
hang
on, Max Brown. He's a big kid. He's 6'5". What's he, 240 or something? He's a big guy, and I don't know how mobile he is. And against Alabama, you want some size, but boy, you're going to want some mobility, because that Alabama front seven, they're going to put pressure on any opposing quarterback, and certainly has the potential to be a problem for USC on Saturday night.
Now the last game, live on sportsbookreview.com. Sunday night, Notre Dame and Texas. Notre Dame on the road, 3.5. Finally, some Irish money coming in, 60 the total. Texas has a new offensive coordinator, and he wants to speed things up. Boy, I can't talk today. Speed things up, and looks like it's going to be Buechele, the freshman quarterback, although they'll have a package for Swoops.
Yeah, I mean, Swoops can't start anymore. Swoops has not worked out as the Texas Longhorns quarterback. And I could certainly makes a lot of sense to have a package for him. The guy's got talent, and I think he could run, a good drive, a good set, a good play. I just don't think he's on a guy you want on the field for 4 quarters. And as you mentioned, from all indications, it's going to be Buechele as the starter for Texas. Charlie Strong may have a quarterback that he can finally build around. Here's a quote from Strong. Quote, "You're going to have a starter, but the reason why both are going to play is because they deserve to play, because of the work they put in. But there's going to be a starting quarterback. Now, the next one, whoever plays, you package it where he may go in the 3rd series of the game or the 4th series of the game, but you're going to play both of them because of the work that they put in. So, we know that they're going to be 2 QBs, and if you're playing Texas, just hope Swoops doesn't screw it up so much before the other guy can come in and give you a chance to cover. Yeah. Man, that guy cost me money. Sorry.
Yes, right.
It's like when a quarterback costs me money multiple times because of miscues, it stands out to me. So, obviously.
With Brian Kelly, he's going to play both quarterbacks, Zaire and Kaiser, and we talked about it last week. All the suspensions, the issues with the guys on the defense, senior safety Redfield kicked off the team, and you have all the issues with Notre Dame as well. So that's something to look for, see if Texas can move the ball with Notre Dame defensively. Maybe a shootout, Teddy. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, I mean, Notre Dame's going to have some defensive issues in here. Brian Van Gorder, he's got no idea what the Longhorns' offense is going to look like unless Notre Dame's got spies in the Texas practices. This is a new offense. It hasn't been shown off. So Van Gorder has no game film to look at to prepare his defense, and that means he's going to have to make adjustments on the fly. If the first half is wild, you may want to look at Notre Dame making some adjustments second half wise that could work in their favor. And of course, they're going to have to do it without Max Redfield, who he lost the suspended due to off-field stupidity. That's going to challenge their depth and their leadership in the secondary.
All right, money time, play of the day, 5-1 so far in football. We'll just recap because we gave out 4 games this week. 2 more that are still live. We have K-State Stanford over tonight, and then Saturday, South Alabama plus 28.5 against Mississippi State. 2 games we gave out earlier in the week that are ready to go Friday and Saturday with money time and the play of the day. All right, we'll recap everything. We will talk to you on Labor Day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.